Someone who looked to bariatric medicine to find a path forward. This is the Venture Forward. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini. I am a recovering addict of obesity, overeating, alcoholism, and gambling. And I just wanted to take a quick shout out and thank all of the comments and just really good heartfelt thanks for the presentations on Tuesday and last Thursday. Your thoughts are really important to what the Venture Forward is. And quite frankly, if there isn't a person that could tell this story, it's definitely me and our guest tonight, which I'm really looking forward to talking to. Whereas I did this through a conventional means, through caloric reduction and exercise and whatnot, our guest tonight, did something by way of bariatric medicine, and she's going to tell that entire story in a minute. I just want to say hi to a couple of people that just joined us. Sarah, good to see you this evening. Hope you're doing well. And Matt, hi, how are you? I know you have a show in about 30 minutes, but I'm glad you're here for a little while, and I appreciate that. And that said, I am actually going to cut over to our guest. Our guest is a lady from Burke County, Pennsylvania. Her name is Leah Ross. And let me go off to this. Oh, wrong one. I knew I did it wrong here. Hang on, sorry. Okay, let's get you in here. There we go. Leah, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on, and quite frankly, it's something where, as I said in the open, obesity is something that affects 2 out of every 5 people in this country. And the fact that you're able to come on tonight and join us for this is very, very important, and I appreciate that very much so.
Absolutely. I appreciate you inviting me.
So, that said, why don't we talk about your story? Why don't we talk about exactly what was the sort of point in time where you, and I'm getting a comment here that there's no sound from you. Hang on one second.
Okay.
For those that are in the audio, okay, they can hear now. Okay, so they're on a bit of a delay here. You're mute for about 10 seconds, and they can't hear you. Now they can hear you. So, okay, we're good. So when was the first time you said, okay, this is something I have to work on, so on and so forth? What does that story look like?
Well, about 4 years ago, I was at my heaviest weight. That would have been, I guess, 2016. I'm 5 feet tall, and I was 275 pounds. And at 5 feet tall, that's very, very heavy, morbidly obese. I went to a doctor's appointment and I had my daughter there with me, who would have been 8 at the time. And the doctor very bluntly told me at that time that if I didn't make some changes, I may not make it through my 40s. Scared me a little bit, got me kind of thinking, okay, maybe I need to do something. Tried some dieting, different kind of exercise. Didn't really stick with it. It was a lot more of an inner journey than I think I had realized at that time. Hadn't given any thought to weight loss surgery at that time. It terrified me. I've heard of it. I've known people that did it. Didn't think I would ever take that step. And then back in the fall of 2018, I got to talking with someone that I knew that had weight loss surgery. I didn't know that she had it, but because the version of her that I knew was a thin person. I didn't realize that prior to knowing her, she had struggled from some of the same things that I did. So in conversation, weight came up, and she started sharing with me that she had weight loss surgery about a year prior to me knowing her. And I was sat there looking at her thinking, oh my gosh, I would never guess that. Looking at her now, I would never guess that at one point she was like me. So I started talking to her about her journey, started listening to some of her story. And I started thinking, maybe I could do that. If she did it, maybe I could do it too. She was, a mom with young kids, just like me, working in an office very similar to my everyday life. And it kind of inspired me to think maybe I should look more into this. So I signed up for an information session at Lehigh Valley Hospital. She actually went with me. I didn't even tell any of my family that I was considering it at the time. It was a big secret. So we went, and I sat there thinking, okay, maybe I can do this. Scheduled my first appointment. I cried the entire drive to my first appointment thinking, what did I get myself into? This is scary, unknown. At that time, I got on the scale at my first appointment at 252 pounds. I had, managed to lose about 20 pounds over a couple of years just doing some diet and exercise, which is great. That's definitely a great thing, but it wasn't enough for the point that I was at.
So when you did diet and exercise, you're talking traditional methods like maybe like a Weight Watchers, caloric reduction.
Yeah, for a few weeks at a time, and then something bad would happen and food would become my comfort. So, so I went to the first appointment, cried in the appointment because, I was terrified. Thought, okay, I'm going to get the process started. Booked all of my appointments. It's about a 3 to 6 months process, depending on your insurance. They don't just lay you on the table and remove 90% of your stomach tomorrow. There's a mental health piece along with that. There's nutrition classes. Of course, physical things that you have to do. So I left there with a huge book of tips and steps throughout the entire process, and scheduled all of my appointments and thought, okay, here we go. We're going to do this. That was in November of 2018. December of 2018, I decided to tell my family finally, after about a month of my first couple of appointments. My mother, who's one of my biggest supporters, of course, was decorating her house for Christmas, and she was up on a step ladder in her kitchen, pretty high up. And at that point, I just decided to drop the bomb on her, and I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm planning on having weight loss surgery." And like any mom would be, of course, she was terrified at first too. And she said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Yeah, Mom, I am. I'm in my 30s, and I'm doing it." So, and then I started to kind of bring my family and friends into my decision, which I'm really glad I did at that time, because I ended up needing their support throughout the process. My insurance wanted a 3-month program. So in those 3 months, I went through mental health evaluations to make sure that I was mentally stable enough to handle the changes that come with weight loss surgery. In those appointments, we addressed some of the issues that contribute to you having this problem, because you don't get there overnight. There's obviously a long time of issues that cause you to eat the way I did and gain the weight that I did. You have to follow a dietitian program. You have to start making changes pretty much right from the get-go. So in December of 2018, I started to cut out little things. For example, I can't eat and drink at the same time now because my stomach is too small to handle that much stuff. So right from the start, I stopped having drinks with my meals. And at first I would forget, I'd pour myself a glass of tea or soda or something for my dinner, sit down and think, oh, that's right, I'm not supposed to be drinking now. I can't use straws anymore. So, those were little things that I would start to cut out right from the get-go. My surgery date was April 10th of 2019. So from December till April, I went through the process. April 10th was my surgery. I went through the surgery without any issues, thankfully. My recovery was actually very easy. I was very, very fortunate. I had a couple of, the first day or two, I had a little bit of discomfort, but I was back to work in a little over a week. I think probably the thing that I was the least prepared for was the mental changes. When you start to see yourself change like that and at such a rapid pace, it's definitely a mental journey. You start to see yourself differently. People start to see you differently. Friendships change. A lot of things change with this journey. It's worth it. It's worth every single, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I wish I had done it sooner. That's my only regret, is that, I didn't do this back when I was in my 20s. But it's been so worthwhile. I was on several medications before I had surgery, and I'm not on them anymore. I had severe sleep apnea, to the point that it would have become dangerous for me at some point, and I refused to use the CPAP machine. They gave me one. I hated it. So I just didn't, I was like, all right, I can't do it. That has stopped. I barely snore, only a little bit now, which my family loves. It's, I have a daughter that's 12. She was a big driving factor behind my decision. She's always been very brutally honest with me. And there were times where she would make comments about my weight. And I know that she saw it differently. I remember her one time saying, in regards to one of her friends, well, so-and-so's mom isn't too fat to do that. Why are you?
Right.
And hearing those things from your kids, they hit you hard. And then you see your kids start to grow up and you think, okay, what kind of example am I setting for her? It's not a way to live. And fortunately, I was able to make the change while I was still young enough, that it's been nothing but worthwhile.
And your life has been so incredibly improved now. You have a way of life that you couldn't even imagine years ago that you have now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can do things that I would have never been able to do years ago. I've ridden horses twice in the past year because I love it so much. And years ago, I would have not been able to get on a horse. I was able to attempt to climb a rock wall with my kids, and I didn't get very far, but I got a lot further than I would have 135 pounds ago. I would not have even gotten anywhere near that then. So the things that I'm able to do with my kids is, it just makes a world of difference. Absolutely.
Couple of questions from the audience. The first question from Matt: what's the concern with straws?
So it sucks air into your stomach, which can actually cause your stomach to expand. And because your stomach is so small, you need to fill it with nutrients as opposed to empty air.
And then the other thing is, Paul asks, how much weight did you lose? And then I guess my follow-up to that was, what was your BMI?
Ooh, I don't remember my exact BMI off the top of my head, but I know that I was in the morbidly obese category. My BMI now is 27, which is actually still considered overweight. I haven't gotten quite to the healthy category yet, but being 5 feet tall, healthy is a pretty small pound number. My heaviest weight was 275 pounds, and I'm 5 feet tall, so that was a lot of weight to carry at such a small height. Now I'm around 140 pounds.
That's incredible. That really is incredible. The fact that you lost 130, 135, it's an incredible number to lose, especially in a period of time that you've lost it. Coupled with other, we're dealing with a word that we can't mention because we don't want to get demonetized. But, the thing that 2020 is all about.
Right.
But the thing is, the fact that you're able to pull all of this off, given the global climate, I guess that's the right way to call it, is incredibly impressive. And there are a lot of people in this room, and myself included, are just so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One thing that I will add, in the past, food was my comfort. Everything I've gone through in life from about the age of 17, which was when I really started to gain a lot of weight, food was my comfort. I had a couple of kids, I went through a divorce, and then a second messy breakup. Food was always my go-to. 2020, and I know a lot of people will probably say the same thing, but 2020 has been one of the hardest years of my life. I went through some things with my oldest child to where he was essentially on his deathbed for a short amount of time. Thankfully, he pulled through it, but facing that as a parent was one of the most horrible things I've gone through. And I was very proud of myself that I went through that without turning back to those old habits. I was able to get through it, find other ways to comfort myself and console myself, without sliding backwards, because it's often in those difficult times that we find ourselves having relapses or old habits start creeping up. I'm fortunate to have a very great support group. I have a great group of friends that I actually met through weight loss surgery. I have family support, and that has helped me, because going through that as a parent could have been enough to tank me. That could have been enough to tank everything I've done in the past year and a half. But I knew as I went through that, I needed to continue to stay healthy for my kids, no matter what the outcome of that situation could have been.
That's really impressive and really incredible, and it just makes the story all the more just jaw-dropping, because the thing is, we're all going through our own struggles, our own things in life.
Yeah.
When you couple those things on top of each other like that.
Right. Exactly. And, I have my bad days. One thing I learned in my support groups was they encourage you to strive to be about 80-20. You're not going to be 100% perfect all the time. If you can be 80-20, that's good. Applaud yourself. We all have days where we're, reaching for something that we shouldn't be eating. But it's about picking yourself back up afterwards and not letting it consume you and go back to consuming your life. So that's why I strive for 80-20.
80-20 is the way you need to look at this. The one thing we'll say in our recovery circles when we talk about, alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous and whatnot is every day we have to do the darn thing. We have to go back and do what is not only the darn thing, but what is the right thing in order to live the most cleanest and healthiest life we can. So the parallels between, what we're dealing with overeating, what we're dealing with, I'll talk about next week with alcoholism. There are so many really close parallels that it's just mind-blowing.
Absolutely. It really goes. And the thing I find too, not to downplay any other type of addiction at all, because they are all equally as serious and life-consuming. But food is a very easy addiction because it's everywhere. Everything revolves around food. It's easy to soothe yourself with food because whether you're at work, whether you're in the car, whether you're at home, there's a way to make it happen.
Right.
I love to drive through so much that no matter what errands I was running, I was finding a drive-through to go through. Whether I was hungry or not, I was going to the drive-through because I was out. It was like my own little reward to myself.
Closet eating.
Grocery shopping alone without my kids. Drive-through. Get rid of the trash before they see, because then they're gonna say, "Why did you give me a Happy Meal?"
I've done that too.
But that was, that was the way I saw it. That was my reward. That was my comfort. Anything happy, sad, it was food. and primarily drive-thrus. Because there was a time where a Burger King chicken sandwich was life.
It really doesn't matter what fast food sort of treat. I mean, the thing is that I think it's the phenomenon of going for it while not home and actually, I hate using that term, but it's closet eating is something. It's that sort of really strange breakaway that we had that was killing us, right? In essence, it was killing us.
Yep.
So it's nice that it's also really not surprising to hear that. And moreover, the fact that we don't do that anymore, the fact that we do a lot more healthier and cleaner things.
Yes. I'm sure Burger King is losing some money on me.
Fortunately, this program is not sponsored by any of them, so I think we're good. We're good from that perspective. Let's go to some comments real quick. Paul said, wow, 15, good for you. Matt asks, how can you test for BMI? BMI is a formula. So basically, you take first of all, the parameter is male versus female, but then height, and then mass, and then you basically plug it into a formula and you get your BMI that way. There is something controversial about that. Now, you mentioned 27. I really think that where those BMI guidelines are these days, that whole science is a bit jaded and antiquated anyway. You told me that you told me you're overweight. I'd say you're full of something, which I won't say because I don't want to be demonetized. And I don't have a bleep button. But I mean, the thing is, you know your own health. You know how you feel, right?
Right. One thing I will add, though, even with losing so much weight, image is. I mean, there are still days I look at myself in the mirror and I see 250 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because the pounds are gone. It's not always gone mentally.
Yeah.
It's like you read what the chart says, you look at yourself, and you still see it. Even though you've come so far, it's still there. Body dysmorphia is a real thing.
Big time. I mean, I'll be honest. There were days as so little ago as like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, where I looked at myself in the mirror and I still saw someone who was 480 pounds.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense.
Nope. But yeah, it will be a lifelong journey for us.
It is. Absolutely
yeah,
is.
Absolutely.
Jalen says, I get you. I'm 5 foot and weigh 210. I'm 135 now. Go, girl. So there you go.
Awesome, Jalen. You go, girl, too.
Congratulations, Jalen, on your progress, and we're very proud of you. Very much so. Jalen continues to say, that's amazing, with a heart. And then also says, when life hits, it's hard. Alcohol, food, drugs. Anything that has that typical sort of dopamine release, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Jalen also says, it's the thing you have control over. Paul goes on to say, I wonder if there are a lot of fat stoics because they're not happy or sad, so they don't have a lot of triggers. What's your thought on that?
I would imagine there probably are, yes.
I would concur. I mean, the thing is, usually one thing is enveloped with another, enveloped with another, enveloped with another. And it doesn't matter how dramatic a sort of situation it is before you realize, I got to do something now or it's going to kill me.
Right.
Whether you're in the middle of an airport at 480 or you're doing something and you realize you can't do it anymore because you are so out of shape, whatever it is. There are a lot of other things that are enveloped in that. And I'm really glad you said what you said, because the first thing you need to do when you start any sort of program is work with the mind. There are reasons why we get there from a sort of a mental sort of perspective, sort of a psychobehavioral sort of perspective.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is mind over matter, 100%.
Jalen says it's healthy, and she also thanks you for the comment on her weight loss, which again, dramatic, very incredible, Jalen, for sure.
Absolutely.
Sarah says, when that happens, seeing your former body, is that like a hallucination?
No, not really a hallucination at all. It's more like, for example, I'll look at my stomach because, I mean, let's be honest, I've got loose skin. And I've still got, what I used to call my tire in the front. It's still there, much smaller, but still there. But I see it now, and at times I'll still think, oh, I look fat in this, or oh, I'm too fat to wear this. And you kind of go back to that mindset of being, 250, 275. So it's not necessarily a hallucination. I think more perception.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the way you see yourself at that moment. And, another factor is, as women, I think we all have days where we feel fat, or, we put something on and it doesn't look right, and it plays on our perception. And even I can say that from even being from 275 pounds to 140, that doesn't go away, unfortunately. I don't know that, I used to often think, oh, she's so skinny, she can wear anything she wants, or she can look great in this. But we all have our flaws, and we all try to cover them up. But perception is, I would say, the main cause for that.
Without question. What I'm going to do is I want to show you the pictures that you shared with me before the episode, and hopefully Ecamm will play along well. If not, we'll make it work. So this is a picture of you from 2004.
Yes. I was at an Easter egg hunt with my son.
What was your body back then in 04?
That was not even my heaviest weight. Honestly, that was probably, if I had to guess, I would say I was probably around the 230s at that point. So I still had a few more years and a few more pounds to pack on. I had a preschool age child at that time, and he was my only one. And I was tired. I know I did not have the energy that I would have had now. But honestly, for the most of my adult life being heavy, I thought I was okay. I wasn't down all the time. I lived, and I thought I was okay. Knowing the way life is now, I would never want to go back to that way. But I wouldn't necessarily say at that point in time that I was not happy in my life. It was just all I knew as an adult at that time.
Yeah, the thing is, you think about what your body goes through when you gain that sort of weight, and you bring up a really interesting point before you kind of forget about it or ignore that sort of thing. But there comes a point where your body's like, oh my God, what the heck's going on here? And there comes a point where it really just gravitates. No pun intended, but it's incredible how when that sort of moment hits.
Right. And I gained my weight very fast. I gained my first pregnancy. I was 18 years old. And I moved out of my parents' house, and I basically ate like a kid whose parents were gone for the weekend. Domino's, Burger King, McDonald's was what I lived on. And with that pregnancy alone, I put on 85 pounds. So that was the kind of the start of the spiral.
There is another picture I have here that is from August of this year. So how far into after the operation are we talking?
14 months.
14 months. All right. So in August of this year, that's what you look like.
Yep. And I was at that moment I was at Devil's Den in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, climbing around on the rock formations with my 12-year-old and sliding down the rocks like a slide and doing things I would have never been able to do before
It's
this. And that's become one of my favorite places to visit. And I think it's because I can do all of that stuff now.
Yeah, it's amazing how much energy one has and what sort of things people, end up pulling off because now they have the energy to do a lot of different things. And I gotta say, and I know I said this earlier in the program, but it's incredible how far you've come, and basically the story that you have, and the work that you've done, is just absolutely incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let me go back to the camera over here. All right, there we go. Some comments as we were looking at memory lane and current day, which again, so very proud of you and so inspiring. But let's go to a couple of comments here. Jalen from before says it's all in our head. Absolutely, I believe in that. Far from a hallucination. Sometimes you just.
Yep.
Jalen also says we are in the age of perfection. That's not helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very sad what young girls view as perfection now.
I think that goes across the board too. I think, certainly with females and little girls and women, absolutely more so than not, but it does really reach both sides of the spectrum there at times.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
Sarah says our culture does horrible things to women in body image.
100%.
Absolutely agree, Sarah. Couldn't agree more, for sure.
And really, if we could all see ourselves the way other people see us, we would think very differently of ourselves.
Right.
And that is one thing I am trying to mentally train myself. I read somewhere that your current weight is another person's goal weight. So while you may not love where you're at now, or you may not love what you see in the mirror every single day, there's somebody out there that's trying to get to that. So be kind to yourself. We preach so much about being kind to others right now, but we really need to be kind to ourselves too.
Amen. Mm-hmm. Sean says, fascinating discussion. We all cope in different ways.
Absolutely. We all have our mechanisms and our vices.
When we have multiple ways, multiple addictions, we have co-addictions, and then one basically transcends another, transcends another, transcends another.
Right.
Jalen says, yes, it does, Sarah. It's sad. I look at young girls now. I want to tell them how beautiful they are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I have a 12-year-old, and I often think if I could fill up her self-esteem to the way I see her, her life would be so much different. It's anyone that has kids right now knows how hard it is watching what young kids go through, even worse than what we went through as young kids.
Paul says, what are you looking forward to doing that you haven't had a chance to do yet?
Goodness, I'm looking forward to flying on an airplane without needing a seatbelt extender. The last time I was on a plane, I refused to get the extender. I was there on my seat trying to stuff myself into the seatbelt. I couldn't put the tray down because my belly was too big. And I haven't had the opportunity to fly yet since I had my surgery. I was supposed to this year, but COVID. So I am definitely looking forward to that. I would say that's probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most that I haven't done yet. I did cross some things off my bucket list this year. I wanted to kayak and paddleboard, and I did both of those and loved it. Horseback riding was definitely something that I wanted to do. Gosh, I can't think of any other specifics off the top of my head, but but flying is definitely on that list.
The thing about flying is that there's not many people flying right now because of what we're dealing with. But
Right.
I'll be honest. It's something that I truly miss, and there was plenty of my life where I dreaded it because of my size.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That, and I used to dread amusement parks. I was never a big ride person to begin with, but just having to walk around the park with my kids, knowing that I was going to be exhausted after like 20 minutes of it. And now I can go to an amusement park all day and just enjoy it. And that was one of the greatest things.
I think once this whole insanity clears, we're gonna create a big giant field trip, and we're gonna all go to an amusement park, and maybe an amusement park where we have to take a flight over, so you get two off the same list.
We get two for one. Yeah.
2 for 1.
It's those little things that you don't realize how much you're really missing out on until you take your life back.
Sarah asks, what's your kids' relationship to food like and their relationships with their bodies?
That's a tough question. I have always had two very, very picky eaters. Both of my kids my son has epilepsy, and my daughter has ADHD. So, we've got some struggles that go along with both of those factors. But they have both been very picky. I would say that I do unfortunately see some tendencies in my daughter that are a little bit similar to me that I'm trying to encourage her to deal with at an early age. But it's hard. It's very hard. My son has always been very thin. He got his dad's metabolism. So he's tall and lanky and one of those people that really can eat whatever they want to. And at this point, it may catch up with him. We'll see what he's like in his 40s and 50s. But my daughter is the one that I worry about because she does take a lot after me physically. So it's something that I'm keeping my eye on.
It's amazing what heredity does to body, right? It's something
Absolutely.
It's something I talked about on Tuesday in the sense that both of my parents are obese. My dad died at 52, 53 because of a fatal heart attack. My mom is obese and has type 2 diabetes, so it doesn't fall far from the tree. So it makes a lot of sense, unfortunately.
Right. Interestingly enough, for me, both of my parents have primarily been thin. I grew up in a house where we ate very well-rounded meals. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. She cooked pretty much every night of the week, a meat, vegetable. I wouldn't necessarily say that, we ate perfectly by any means, but there was definitely nutrition in our house. We didn't have a lot of snacks. We didn't have a lot of junk food. Pizza was a treat, so I think that genetics played some portion, that did definitely play a portion of mine, but also I think that it was just life. I got married and had a baby very, very young. An hour before my wedding rehearsal, I found out that the person I was about to marry had a rare form of cancer and spent the first 2 years of my marriage watching him go through chemotherapy and battle cancer.
Sorry.
When you're 18 years old with a newborn baby and a husband with cancer, you don't really think a whole lot about what you're putting in your body. You're kind of in survival mode. And, from there, I went on to be married for 7 years. Of course, we had our ups and downs. And then, I went through a divorce with young kids and add on some more drama and weight. So I didn't necessarily grow up. I wasn't necessarily raised to eat this way, I would say. It was more something that just kind of developed over time because of poor habits and heavy life. Life was heavy at the beginning. And at 18, 19, and 20, that's a lot to take on.
Yeah, it's for some it's something that becomes part of you because of one thing or another thing. So I totally understand that, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but it's also really incredible to see where you are now.
Absolutely. That is what has shaped my life. There is not one single thing that I've done that I regret.
Jalen says, "What an inspiration!" I think everybody in this room agrees. You're
Well,
definitely
thank
very,
you.
very much inspiring.
Thank you.
Jalen also says, "I've never heard it put that way. That's brilliant."
Thank you.
Merck, how are you? Merck says, "I made it before it ended." I'm glad you're here, Merck. Glad you're here tonight. Merck also says, "Be kind and love your. Be kind to and love ourselves." Amen to that.
Absolutely. If we cannot be kind to ourselves, how can we possibly be kind to others? Because we need to love ourselves. I
First,
mean, I don't want to say don't be kind to others and put yourself first, but you've got to be your own, self-love has got to be number one. If we're not at our best, we can't be at our best. We can't give others our best.
yeah, the love to ourselves has to be first, foremost, and paramount, without question. Without that love,
Absolutely.
there's no way we could share that.
Right. Absolutely.
We also have a taker on that whole plane trip, field trip offer.
Oh,
Jalen's in, so we will definitely let you know when we get back to some sort of normalcy, not the new normal, whatever the hell it is.
Whatever that's gonna look like, it'll be the VF trip.
The VF trip. That's right. There'll probably be bungee jumping and other things involved too. That's
Right. But not a lot of carbs.
no carbs,
Right.
but bungee jumping and
Bungee jumping.
skydiving.
Right.
Jalen says, my son has hypophys... Oh, I can't even pronounce that. Hypophosphatasia. I think I'm close. I'm not a doctor. And I have ADD. I can so relate. So, obviously, there are two things going on with Jalen and her son. And
Yeah. Yep. Jalen, hit me up on Facebook if you ever want to chat, girl.
So that's the comments I have thus far. Anything you want to share that's basically been part of this journey that you've come to the realization that now this is what I want to do. We talked about physically the things that you want to do now, that you have a bucket list. But what are some of the things that you're thinking of? Either from a creative sort of perspective, a professional sort of perspective. Are there doors now that are open that were previously closed?
I would say absolutely in general. I have, since I started on this journey, I've changed. I went back to school. I'm now working on my bachelor's degree. After 12 years of being divorced, I just took back my maiden name, which is something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I think that by taking on this journey, it showed me that I can do the things that I want to do and that I should do them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one to, and some of my best friends will tell me I'm one to say, well, I can't do that because, I've always got a reason why I can't do something. But it's really a matter of overcoming those reasons that you stick in your head and realizing that you can do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. At 37 years old, as a single mom, if you want to go back to college and get your bachelor's degree, you can absolutely do it. The only person holding yourself back is you.
Right.
So I guess part of my motivation now is to just continue finding who I am, because I feel like this is really the first time in my adult life that I've started to discover who I am. And even my kids notice it. They'll say, well, why after all this time are you doing this? Well, because it's the first time that I realized that I could. It took me a little while to realize that I could do these kinds of things. Another thing I'd like to do, and I think this is kind of a gateway to that, is to be able to share with people what I went through, because there are a lot of people out there that suffer from obesity that think that's just the way they're going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
And surgery may not be for everyone. I would absolutely say look at your options, do your homework, talk to your doctors. It's not a catch, it's not the perfect solution for everybody. For me, it was what I needed to do. But there is a way. If you want to do it, there's a way. You just have to find what works for you. So I guess one thing I'd like to be able to do is to kind of help people find that way, and not be scared to take those steps. You're not stuck in your addictions. You're not stuck in your body. You're not a prisoner. You can overcome it. You can absolutely overcome it. It's very, very hard. A lot of people think that surgery is the easy way out. I can tell you 100% that it is not. At the beginning, it's fairly easy. Your weight kind of falls off, but you're also on a liquid diet. I spent about 3 months on liquids. So, you're not eating real food for a while. So it's the harder part is now, actually. It's maintaining. It's now that I can eat almost anything. It's sticking with my reason for not doing that. I'm actually getting a tattoo in a month that kind of symbolizes my journey, and it'll be on the back of my wrist, and it'll be a good reminder to me all the time why I did what I did, and to keep moving forward.
Your life has a different and new meaning now that is probably a lot more, I wouldn't say probably, definitely a lot more beneficial, a lot more self-rewarding, but also self-benefiting for others than it's ever been. You've given yourself freedom.
Absolutely. And there's not much that I'm afraid to take on at this point. Like I said, starting school again, working full time, and going to school, you find an inner strength, I think, that you didn't know you had.
Sarah asks, what are your favorite things that you're studying?
Well, I just started school. I took some summer classes, and then I just started my fall classes a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know that I really have a favorite thing yet. I'm majoring in business administration with a specialty in finance because I'm already a banker. So it kind of ties into my line of work. I have been enjoying my math class. At first, I was terrified by it, but as I'm getting into doing some of this algebra, I'm finding it to be a little bit addicting. So I don't know that there's necessarily one favorite thing yet, but it's a very new adventure for me.
It warms my heart that you said the thing about math that you just did, knowing that I've been a math and stat major in college and whatnot. I'm glad you finally woke up and become at least somewhat of a lover of mathematical sciences. I appreciate that.
Well, I'll remember you when I need help.
There you go. Jalen says on it, so I think ask for that Facebook friend request right down the road, and Jalen would love that. One of the things I'll say is our support network is such an important thing as we go through something like this. And much akin to everything else, it never goes away. It's something that we have to stay true to ourselves and continue down that venture forward. So to find new members in a network, it's great.
Absolutely. I was fortunate to connect with 4 other women that had surgery at the same hospital as I did. Actually, through a Facebook group we met, and they are some of my best friends now. We had named ourselves Fab Five. Since then, we've added 2 members, so we are now Sexy 7. But they have really been a huge support to me. So it is absolutely true. You need to surround yourself with that group and find your people, because they are the ones that will pull you through.
That's it's so important to have a group like that around you, and they sound like a really amazing people, and you truly are blessed for that, for sure.
Absolutely.
Jalen says, what an amazing human being. I needed that so much right now.
Oh, I'm so glad. That made me feel so good. I was so nervous to come on today because I've never done anything like this before.
Well, I think I echo everybody's comments in this, and I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you are telling your story and you are sharing that with us. It's incredible.
Yes, Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sean says, never too late to make a change in your life. Agreed.
Absolutely. Keep your dreams alive, even when you're old.
Jalen also says, I have to go, calling me in for a doctor's appointment. Thank you so much for sharing. And I will, that echoes everybody's comment in here. Thank you so much for sharing.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Are there any additional thoughts, any final thoughts anything you want to plug? I mean, the floor is yours.
I don't think so, but I am on Facebook for anyone that has questions or, would like to. I'm always open for chatting and sharing journeys. So anyone that would like to, feel free to find me.
Leah, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on the show tonight. And your story is so inspirational and so heartwarming, and such a story of really putting your mind to something and getting something done to basically prolong your future. It is. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Have a great night, Leah. I'm going to wrap up with a couple comments, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Stay healthy and well, everyone.
Thank you, Leah. Leah Ross, ladies and gentlemen. Just an incredible human being who's gone through so much, but so many good things to make that step forward for herself, to make her venture forward, as this show is called. A couple of quick notes. On Tuesday's broadcast, I mentioned Headspace, and I meant Mindspace for that sort of meditation thing. And I made a note in the comments of that broadcast, but I just wanted to make that sort of note out loud for everybody. The second thing I'll say is, and I feel like I need to share this. It's in the credits at the end, but I wanted to share this comment with you guys real quick, in a sense that the Venture Forward's disclaimer is, while we make every effort to broadcast correct information, this Venture Forward's always evolving. We double-checked our facts, but realize that medicine and treatment are constantly changing sciences and arts. Please, 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 please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor, or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and or mental health regime. And then there's some copyright information on the bottom of that. So, that said, a couple of other quick comments. Tomorrow night, we have the VF Talks, which is our conversation program. A quick request in advance of 5:15 Eastern tomorrow night, 2:15 Pacific. If you have any sort of topic ideas for tomorrow night's conversation, or you want to jump on the conversation tomorrow night, by all means, please let me know. I am definitely interested in having as many... Brought up the wrong graphic. Definitely email me at theventureforward@gmail.com. Again, theventureforward@gmail.com. Let me know that you're interested. I will give you the link and everything, and we'll get started at 5:15, 5:20 Eastern time tomorrow for what is the conversation portion of the week's programs. And certainly after weeks like these, we can all use a conversation or two, right? One quick other comment, and next week's topic is alcoholism. If you know someone who has a story to tell and would love to share that story on the Venture Forward, please email me at my email address. I'll share it again. It's theventureforward@gmail.com. I would love to tell their story. I would love them to tell their story, rather, as I will tell mine. What alcoholism was part of those things that had to be broken free from to make me live a happier life, a healthier life. So by all means, please let me know. I'd love to have them share their story. And I guess I got a couple more comments. Sarah says, thanks, Leah. I echo that. Everybody echoes that for sure. Merck says, thank you both for doing this. Merck, thank you for joining us tonight for sure. Sean says, great guest and insight. Thanks to both of you. Thank you, Sean, for joining us on the Venture Forward tonight. And Paul says, great episode. Paul, you do fantastic stuff up on Facebook and YouTube and whatnot. And it's a absolute amazing thing to hear you say that. And I take that with a lot of A lot of pride there. I appreciate that for sure. One quick comment before I sign off. There's a certain person today just had a birthday, and I just wanted to basically share one of the utmost and heartfelt happiest of birthdays to my mom, who turned 69 today. My mom turned 69 years old. Mom, I hope you're watching. We love you. And for all of you, I'm going to remind you to stay safe, stay strong, stay sane, stay sober. You're worth it. We'll see you tomorrow night for VF Talks at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. Have a great night.